Ever wondered what makes a photograph stand out? It's all in the composition. You see, composition is more than just arranging elements in a frame. It's about telling a story, about capturing emotions, and about guiding the viewer's eye through the visual narrative you've created. It's about making your photos not just look good, but feel good. Think of composition as the secret sauce that gives your photos that extra zing. It's what separates a good photo from a great one. It's the difference between a snapshot and a work of art. But here's the thing. There are no rigid rules to composition. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Instead, it's about understanding and utilizing composition tools to enhance the emotional impact of your photos. It's about being flexible, being intuitive, and most importantly, being creative. By the end of this video, you'll have a solid understanding of composition and how to use it to create stunning photographs. Now you might be asking, what exactly is composition? Let me break it down for you. Picture this. You're handed a canvas, a palette of colors, and a brush. You have all these elements at your disposal, but how you arrange them on the canvas, the picture you paint, that's up to you. That's what composition in photography is like. It's how you arrange the elements in your shot, the way you guide the viewer's eye through the image, and the feelings you evoke with your arrangement. Think of composition as the language of photography. Just as words are arranged to form sentences in a book, elements in your photograph, like lines, shapes, colors, and light, are arranged to form a visual narrative. This narrative guides the viewer's eye through the image, impacting how they perceive and engage with your photograph. But here's the twist. Composition isn't rigid. It's not a set of strict rules that you must follow to create a good photograph. Instead, it's a set of tools that you can use to enhance the emotional impact of your photos. It's a way of injecting your own creativity and individuality into your work. You might have heard of the rule of thirds, a popular composition technique. While it's a useful tool, it's not the be-all and end-all of composition. It's just one of many tools in your photographic toolbox. The beauty of composition lies in its flexibility. You can bend it, twist it, and turn it upside down to create images that are uniquely yours. So, composition is all about how you arrange elements in your photo to tell a story or evoke a certain emotion. It's about using your creativity and intuition to guide the viewer's eye and engage them in a meaningful and emotional way. Remember, as a photographer, you're not just taking pictures, you're telling stories, and composition is one of the most powerful tools you have to do just that. So, composition is all about how you arrange elements in your photo to tell a story or evoke a certain emotion. You've probably heard of the rule of thirds, but do you know what it means? Let's dive right in. At its core, the rule of thirds is a fundamental principle of composition in photography. Imagine your frame as a grid, divided into 9 equal parts by 2 equally spaced horizontal lines and 2 equally spaced vertical lines. The idea is to position your subject along these lines or at their intersections. Why, you might ask? Well, this technique can add balance and interest to your photo. It guides the viewer's eye to key focal points, creating a more engaging visual experience. If you were to place your subject smack dab in the middle of your frame, your photo might appear static, devoid of dynamism. But with the rule of thirds, you introduce an element of tension and intrigue that can truly elevate your image. But here's the twist. While the rule of thirds can be a powerful tool, it's not a rigid rule that must be followed at all times. It's more of a guide, a stepping stone to help you compose your shots. You see, photography is an art, and art thrives on creativity and intuition. So, while the rule of thirds can be a great starting point, don't hesitate to break it when your artistic vision calls for it. Consider it like a map. Just as a map guides you on your journey, the rule of thirds can guide your composition. But just as you might veer off the mapped path to explore an intriguing side trail, you can veer off the rule of thirds to explore a unique composition. So, experiment. Play around with the rule of thirds, but also venture beyond it. Remember, rules in photography, like in any art, are meant to be broken. It's about finding a balance between understanding these principles and allowing your creative instincts to take the lead. Remember, the rule of thirds is just one tool in your composition toolbox, not a hard and fast rule. Happy shooting. But the rule of thirds isn't the only composition technique. There are plenty more to explore. Let's dive right in and discover some of these other techniques. One such technique is the use of leading lines. These are lines within the image that guide the eye of the viewer through the photograph. It could be a winding road, a row of trees, or even a pathway in a park. Leading lines are an excellent way to draw attention to the main subject or a specific part of the image. Next we have symmetry. It's a powerful technique that can create a sense of balance and harmony in your photos. Symmetry can be found everywhere, from architecture to nature, and utilizing it in your compositions can bring a pleasing aesthetic to your images. Then we have the technique of framing. This involves using natural or man-made objects in the image to frame the main subject. It could be anything from a window frame to an archway, or even a couple of trees. Framing not only draws attention to your subject, but also adds depth and context to your image. Speaking of depth, let's not forget the depth of field. This technique involves manipulating the focus of the camera to create a sharp subject against a blurred background, or vice versa. The depth of field can add a three-dimensional feel to your images and make your subject pop. And there you have it. Leading lines, symmetry, framing, and depth. Each of these techniques can add a unique twist to your images and help you create photos that are visually engaging and full of life. These techniques provide different ways to guide your viewer's eye and create a visually engaging photo. Composition might seem complex, but don't worry. Like any skill, it gets easier with practice. You'll find that as you continue to shoot, your understanding of composition will deepen, and your ability to apply these techniques will improve. It's essential to remember that the rules of composition are not set in stone. They're guidelines to help you create more compelling images, but they're not the be-all and end-all of photography. So go ahead, play around with different arrangements, try out various techniques, and see what resonates with your personal style. Imagine the frame as a playground. You're free to arrange the elements within it in a way that tells your story best. Sometimes you might want to stick to the rule of thirds, placing your subject off-center for a more dynamic image. Other times you might feel that a symmetrical composition works best, creating a sense of balance and harmony. Don't shy away from experimenting with different perspectives too. Shoot from above, from below, from the side. Each angle will give you a different view, a different story. And remember, photography is a form of visual storytelling. The way you compose your shot plays a big part in how you tell your story. And while we're on the topic of storytelling, let's not forget about the emotional impact of your images. The composition can guide the viewer's eye, draw them into the image, and evoke emotions. So, think about the feeling you want to convey, and how you can use composition to achieve that. But most importantly, have fun with it. Photography is an art form, and like all art, it's subjective. What works for one person might not work for another, and that's okay. The important thing is that you're creating something that you're proud of, something that reflects your unique perspective. So, pick up your camera, head out, and start shooting. Practice makes perfect after all. And remember, don't be afraid to break the rules and experiment. That's how you'll develop your unique photographic style. So, what have we learned about composition in photography today? We've discovered that composition is more than just arranging elements in a photo. It's a powerful tool for conveying meaning and evoking emotions. It's the secret ingredient that guides the viewer's eye through the image, impacting how they perceive and engage with the photograph. We've also debunked the myth that the rule of thirds is the only way to go. While it's a useful guideline, it's not a rigid rule. The beauty of photography is in its flexibility and room for individual creativity. We've explored other composition techniques as well, each with its unique ability to enhance the emotional impact of your photos. But remember, these techniques are not set in stone. They're meant to be experimented with and tailored to your unique style. Lastly, we've stressed the importance of practice and experimentation. The more you play around with these techniques, the more you'll find what works best for you. With these composition techniques in your toolkit, you're well on your way to creating photos that not only look great, but tell a story too. So go out there and start composing.